following news that Vladimir Putin plans on increasing Russia's nuclear capability, Donald Trump decided to take to Twitter and tweeted something curious. He wrote, "The United States must greatly strengthen and expand its nuclear capability until such time as the world comes to its senses regarding nukes." Now, that makes it seem as though Trump is sparking a new nuclear arms race in response to what Vladimir Putin plans on doing in Russia. Now, of course, people wanted him to clarify or at least elaborate more on what that tweet meant. And so Mika Brzezinski got an answer from him. Take a look at what he had to say.
Mika asked the president-elect, while we had the opportunity, what his position was on trying to clarify the tweet yesterday regarding the nuclear arsenal, and the president-elect told you what?
Let it be an arms race. We will outmatch them at every pass.
And outlast them all.
And outlast them all.
So that was his reaction. Not much of a clarification. Of course, people want more of an elaboration on that. But I just have to make a nonsense point before we get into the meat of the story.
Please do. The nonsense point is the only point I want to make.
Yeah, you can't have a conversation about a nuclear arms race while you're wearing pajamas.
Yeah.
Like, it's just very strange. But
here's what else you can't do while you do a show while you wear pajamas. Put on full makeup.
Yeah, that's the second point I wanted to make. It's funny how like-minded we are, even on silly things like this. Like, I get it, they want to do a show in pajamas because of Christmas and stuff like that, and it's cute. But then when you got a story about, like, how we might have nuclear war, everybody's, like, got to panic and be like, bring me the suit, bring me the suit. We're going to talk about nuclear war. I can't go out in pajamas.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
And it's not a pajama Christmas get-together if you slopped on all this makeup on your face.
I get it. It's TV. You can wear a little. I'll grant you. You got the lights are there, but they look ridiculous, and it's a reminder that you shouldn't take them seriously even when they're not wearing their pajamas.
Okay, now on to the serious issues.
Yes.
If the only thing people take away from this video is not to take Morning Joe seriously, then that's the most important point we're going to make today.
That's less of a show and more of a domestic abuse situation. I mean, I don't know if you watch some of those. Have you watched that? I mean, Mika looks like she's doing a hostage video half the time. I mean, come on. You don't watch that show ever?
Never.
It's, well, I stay up late. I like to watch Morning Joe before I go to bed because I like to go to bed angry. And,
seriously, almost all the Morning Joe clips I see are either online that we're going to criticize or on the Jimmy Dore show.
Okay, yeah. There's a lot happening there. There's a big cavalcade of jagoffs every day on that show. It's filled with, you know, Washington insiders, Wall Street billionaires, and an odd plagiarist or two. They're just sitting around.
And the establishment loves it.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the nuclear war. There's two things that scare me. Nuclear war and Morning Joe. Okay, so I don't know what to make of this. I mean, Putin is talking tough on this. Is this all for show? Is that your theory, Ben, that they both want to seem like tough guys and they don't really mean any of it?
It's very dangerous because it's a re-escalation of nuclear war. I forgot to send you. I was going to send it I'll send it to all three of you guys. A great piece by Jerry Brown in the New York Times Review of Books from the summer about William Perry wrote a book, I believe, over the summer, who's maybe America's foremost authority on the arms race. Served in the Defense Department in the 60s, then again under Bill Clinton. He's a Republican and so forth. So anyway, how close we came to nuclear war during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and not in the ways that we think of, but really, if a Soviet sub was prepared to launch a nuclear-tipped missile at an American destroyer in the blockade, except the head of the Soviet, and there were no orders to contradict it. They'd had orders if there was an aggressive move taken, except the head of the Soviet nuclear naval forces happened to be on that sub and decided, we're not going to do this. We're not going to shoot first here. We're going to wait this out. But they were ready to go. If he hadn't been on it, they just would have fired it. And then there would have been a response, and who knows what would have happened. We would have had a nuclear war. And there were 2 or 3 instances where we came spectacular, including a U.S. pilot who happened in the middle of it to wander into Soviet airspace and got out before he was intercepted. Like just a number of things that could have gone wrong. So this is enormously dangerous because one of them is a authoritarian, aggressive person without any respect for the rule of law. And the great thing is you don't yet know who I'm going to say. I mean Putin. and the other one is disinterested in the world, intellectually disinterested, and a narcissist. And so put them together, it could be unbelievably dangerous. But I think very clearly this suits them both politically to talk this way.
So I want to give you guys more context in just a second, but every time we talk about nuclear, arms and Iran, for instance, why we wouldn't want Iran to have nuclear weapons, I always think about, various political scholars and their theories on nuclear war. And so one scholar that always stood out to me the most was Kenneth Waltz. And not just Kenneth Waltz, a lot of political scholars use the idea of rational actors to kind of hash out their theories, right? And in this case, I mean, is Trump a rational actor? Like, that's what always worries me. He seems like someone who has knee-jerk reactions to things, who pulls the trigger, especially when it comes to social media, without thinking about the ramifications of what he's saying. So I worry about what this means, but based on more of the context, I'm not completely worried yet. So let me tell you more of what's going on. Now, Sean Spicer was talking to Matt Lauer, and he actually contradicts what Trump had tweeted and what Trump had followed up with Mika Brzezinski. Let's take a look.
President-elect Trump set out yesterday talking about nuclear weapons, said the U.S., quote, must greatly strengthen and expand its nuclear capability. Expand. Explain it.
Well, the tweet continued, unless other countries come to their senses. And I think the point that he's making is that we're not going to sit back as a country and allow other countries to expand their nuclear capability with the U.S. just sitting idly by. This president is going to take action. He's going to make sure that the American interests are protected.
This president then is going to reverse 40 years of policy in this country where presidents since Ronald Reagan pledged to reduce the number of nuclear weapons and warheads we have.
But we're not going to sit back, Matt, and watch other nations threaten our safety. If another country wants to expand their nuclear capability, the U.S. is not going to sit back and idly by. But just to be clear, the president isn't saying we're going to do this. He said unless they come to their senses. It's a warning to them that this president is going to take action.
So he kind of contradicts himself in that video, right? Where he's like, yeah, we're going to totally amp up our nukes, but we're not going to amp up our nukes unless they do. So I don't know, okay? But Vladimir Putin has released a statement on this, and he says he's not bothered by Donald Trump's tweets or his plans to increase nuclear weapons in the country. In fact, Trump just recently released a positive letter that Putin had written to him dating back to December 15th. And I want to read you a little bit of that as well. Let's go to graphic 11. Putin writes to Trump, serious global and regional challenges which our countries have to face in recent years show that the relations between Russia and the U.S. remain an important factor in ensuring stability and security of the modern world. I hope that after you assume the position of the President of the United States of America, we will be able, by acting in a constructive and pragmatic manner, to take real steps to restore the framework of bilateral cooperation in different areas, as well as bring our level of collaboration on the international scene to a qualitatively new level.
Yeah, and the way they'd like to collaborate is by each building a number of new nuclear weapons, because that helps them both. Doesn't mean they want to launch attacks at each other. I feel like this is if they didn't speak, that it's sure coincidental that these guys, that this is just exactly what Putin would like, is that because this is also a guy who has to maintain political power, and his threat to political power is not losing an election, but maintaining support of the army and the political powerful elites around. And the way he would do it is, man, we got a threat. Look at this. We got a threat here. We got to build. I'm the guy to lead us through this. There's no more authoritarian thug than I am, and I'm the guy to do this. And it obviously benefits. They think, I don't know that it doesn't benefit them both, but they obviously are both the kind of people who think that this benefits them both. But we're, to your point, quite some time away from any of those things actually being implemented, of course.
Okay, as usual, no one really knows because we're attributing strategy to a guy who
says
is
everything.
A simpleton, right? And he has no strategy. So if you were actually a sophisticated player, you might think, okay, well, this will allow me to seem unbiased because I have all these people accusing me of being pro-Russian, but I'll flex my muscle against Russia here, and I don't really mean it, but that'll play well. And I'll seem like a strongman, and it will allow Putin to flex his muscle and seem like a strongman. Hey, and funny enough, even though we appear to be against each other, we're both winning. But it's putting way too much thought into Trump's head, right? He's like, oh yeah, I don't know if he meant to get tough or get soft on nukes. He says, unless other countries come to their senses, maybe he means, hey, you should reduce your nukes. He doesn't know himself.
That's definitely not that is definitely not what he meant. There's no question. And I think it's I don't think it's worth mentioning. It's definitely worth mentioning that this is in the context of the president, who currently has another month in Washington at the White House. I literally couldn't remember what we called the House. At the White House, who came into office pledging to rid the world of nuclear weapons, seeking a nuclear-free world. In the last year, proposed $1 trillion in new spending on nukes. Much of that was to
Obama did.
Obama. Much of that was to, do what makes some sense, which is we probably can't have 1960s and 70s operating systems controlling these nukes. So refurbishing them makes some sense. But the flip side is, hey, and some of it was going to be on better, smaller, easier to use, therefore frightening nuclear weapons. And so, this is no matter who's in office, it would take remarkable leadership to lead to a world that is actually largely free of nuclear weapons.
So we don't have enough money for free college education to give equality of opportunity to your kids, but we got enough money to spend $1 trillion on nukes, and that's Obama. The other possibility of, if you put any strategy behind this of Trump, is, hey, put all these generals into place. They all used to work for defense contractors. You know what defense contractors want? For us to build more nukes. So a Republican Party gets richer, their donors get richer, and et cetera. Last thing is, for Putin, be careful what you wish for. So he wanted Trump. He wanted to make those oil deals. He got Rex Tillerson. They're going to make the oil deals. And I get it. And he thinks it's clever. And he got rid of, the Democratic Party that put sanctions on him, et cetera. But Trump doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Him cavalierly challenging the one China policy, because he does never even. If you asked him what the one China policy was before he took the call from the leader of Taiwan, it was inconceivable that he knew it, right? And so, but if you do that, it has consequences. But this guy of vastly limited intelligence, right? It's a funny way of phrasing it, but he's like, what? I took a call from the leader of Taiwan because Bob Dole, who's a lobbyist for them, told me to, and I like Bob Dole, right? And so what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is if you challenge the one China policy of China, they might want to flex their muscles and prove you wrong. And one way they could do that is just walk over to Taiwan and take it. And then what are you going to do? You're going to get into a nuclear conflict with China? You're going to get into a giant war with China? That's a terrible idea. So words do have consequences, but we have a president-elect who does not understand that. And if he gets into a standoff with Putin, all of a sudden you've got two idiot strongmen. And well, Putin's smart, but idiot in the sense of like, I shall prove myself to you. I am stronger than you, right? And they both have nukes. Recipe for disaster. Together we can change the media, make it more representative of you and not the powerful. Come join us, make a difference. tytnetwork.com/join.